Hey everybody, this is John here for MTG Nexus Red, coming at you with another Burn League this time. We're playing a slightly different variant. This is a variant that had done well in a recent, I believe, Modern Challenge. Notably, this version does not run Eidolon of the Great Revel, a card that a lot of people have been cutting from the deck entirely, and I wanted to give it a go, see how that feels in this particular league. In its place, we're playing a one-of copy of Ragavan, and then increasing our utility spells, Lightning Helix, and Skullcrack notably. Rest of the deck, nothing terribly exciting going on with it in the main deck, although there is some differences. There are 7 fetch lands in this build as opposed to 6. It does make Searing Blaze a little bit more reliable to turn on. Downside is you're only running 4 fetchables, 2 Sacred Foundry, and 2 Mountains. The theory behind Ragavan, very similar to one version that we were running with Zergo, having a 9th or 10th 1-drop to pressure the opponent early. Has the potential to have haste in the mid-game with dash, and obviously Ragavan being a very busted monkey. The sideboard, not a whole lot going on with it. The 4 copies of Core Firewalker, a little bit cute. Don't know if they'll end up being relevant, but you know, this is the same play slot that Sanctifier and Vec would sometimes be run. Really, Core Firewalker is only particularly good in the mirror. It's not good against things like Rakdos Scam or Dredge or Breach or any of those kind of decks. So a little bit more narrow, but we're running these because this is what was in the list. 3 copies of Path to Exile. You gotta deal with big dumb idiots somehow. A lot of people like a split of this and Deflecting Palm. Kind of been low on Deflecting Palm. Main mashup you wanted in is Hammer Time, and well, Hammer Pilots are usually pretty good about playing around it. 4 copies of Whirling Vortex. Life Gain's a thing. Cascade's a thing. Evoke Elementals are a thing. You know, you name it, this card's pretty decent in a lot of matchups that don't involve heavy creature draws. So anything that's generally not heavy on creatures, you're probably bringing this in because it has some type of effect in that game. And then a couple copies of Exquisite Firecraft. Murktide's a thing. Creativity's a thing. Living End's a thing, etc. A bunch of blue decks running around the format right now towards the top tables. So, Exquisite Firecraft, definitely a decent plan to be on this card. So, that said, let's get into some matches. Alright, game 1. Unfortunately, we are on the draw. So, take a look at what our opening hand is. 4 lands, Boros Charm, couple spells, just not good enough. This hand has the 1 land problem, but we are already down to 6 on the draw, so we'll go ahead and keep it. Probably put back either Searing Blaze or one of the Rift Bolts. Choose to put back one of the Rift Bolts. Opponent leads on Spara's Headquarters, so some type of 4 or 5 color nonsense. Could be Zoo, could be Elemental Pile. Farseek, not a card you generally see in these decks, but does make some amount of sense, I guess. Go ahead and lead on Goblin Guide. Opponent reveals a Solitude. We hit the Solitude, but nothing we can do with it. Opponent casts an Omnath. We go ahead and remove Omnath here between Riftbolt and the Searing Blaze, simply because that's not a card you could leave in play and win as a burn deck. So, opponent has Golos. What a interesting brew. Pitching Leyline Binding, getting rid of Ragavan. Guess they want that Golos. We put them to 9 here. Opponent shocks in to play Golos. Golos grabs into a Triumph. So, no World Tree seems interesting. I'll go ahead and do that. Play Goblin Guide, swing in here, put them to 2. Hopefully, they're drawn in their Leyline Binding, so they'll be able to answer the other Goblin Guide even without blocking. It goes to 2. They Farseek. Now their last card in hand is Leyline Binding. So next turn they'd be able to activate Golos, and we get lucky to draw the kill spell here. So, all right, on to game number 2 against what looks to be some type of go big Elementals pile. Alright, sideboarding. I literally boarded out the 4 Rift Bolts, boarded in the 4 Roiling Vortex. Still wasn't 100% sure what our opponent was on, but this hand obviously pretty easy mulligan with the no-lander. This hand is a 1-lander that's kind of meh, but I do think we have to keep it. We have plenty of bolts, plenty of roiling vortexes. Hopefully we'll draw land. Go ahead and... should have just bolted their face here to play around any type of counterspell nonsense. Sanctifier and Vec. Annoying, but only really if we draw creatures. So we just play a Roiling Vortex and pass. Does our opponent a point of damage. Opponent has Prismatic Ending for it. Hits us for 2. We play another Roiling Vortex. Our land base is going to continue to do less damage. So opponent has Knight of Autumn to blow it up. And just beats us down. So there's been a lot of these like soup piles lately, for lack of a better term. Go ahead and bolt them. Bolt them. Made a slight mistake here. There was a couple of things that could have blown us out here. A Solitude could potentially have bought them some more time. So I probably shouldn't have fired off this last bolt when we did. Not that we could really play around them having Ephemerate and other stuff. But the reason we conceded here is our opponent would gain 4, go to 7, and then on their untap, turn around and gain another 4 life. So, they would have gone to 7 to 4, back to 8, and we're already going to be down to 4 next, or down to 6 next turn. So maybe this was a slightly premature concession, but we would have needed to draw on particularly well to kill them before they could kill us. So, anyways, on to game number 3. Number 3 didn't really change any sideboarding, so just hope to have a better hand, shall we? Alright, 1-lander, Ragavan, Swiftspear. This hand certainly is risky, but I do think it's a worthwhile risk, especially with Ragavan on the play. So, opponent shocks in and Prismatic Endings. We play a Swizzle Spear here. Opponent plays Wool of Omens, so they're just kind of white mid-range with Omnath. A white mid-range featuring Omnath here. We're going to get a chance to get Wool out of the way while dealing damage to them. So Searing Blaze, quite nice here. This does prevent them 2 damage, obviously, but... Okay, go to combat, see what they do. They cast Leyline Binder or something. Nope, they just cast nothing. So, go ahead and cast Lightning Helix. We're still not 100% sure at this point if they play like any type of counter spells, because really this is not a deck that you see very often. Like, it's Elementals, but they don't have Karuga. And they're just like mono white good stuff mid range. So opponent shocks in here, which is curious that you'd shock in for Elesh Norn in this matchup when I'm holding a handful of spells, but put our opponent to 2. We cast Boros Charm and get there against Elesh Norn Elementals, I guess. Lack of a better thing. I guess this is why you can't play Karuga, because Elesh Norn, some of the other cards, but it's basically Elementals with no copies of Kahira. Right, we're back for our second match in this league. You're on the play, which is nice. We have a 1-lander here that obviously is a bit of a risky, but with 3 1-drop creatures, one of them being Ragavan, just seems like it's worth the risk. Go ahead and fetch here. Putting in Ragavan, put our opponent on the clock. They have Shelduck Isle, so it looks like we're going to connect with Ragavan, draw yet another 1-drop. Ruin Crab, so it confirms that they are on mill. Opponent with the odd double island start. Could certainly have played Swizzle Spear here potentially. Play Swizzle Spear and pass. Opponent does Fraying Sanity, sure, at least they're milling something, right? But they really need something very good here. Go to combat, they Fatal Push Monkey, which is fine. We're going to draw Field of Ruin, which is Mildly annoying. They play Jace the Perfected Mind. We go ahead and Lightning Helix them. And now they're just dead, no matter what we draw here. So, easy game 1 against Mill. Mill is a bit of a weird matchup. Generally, their strategy, obviously, mill you out as quickly as possible. Their particular hate cards for burn can be generally you're going to see Crypt Incursion. Sometimes you can see Collective Brutality. Sometimes you'll see Ensnaring Bridge. So the cards that you're playing around are kind of mixed. We boarded out 1 copy of Searing Blaze, 1 copy of Skewer the Critics, 4 Rift Bolts. We brought in the 2 copies of Wear Tear simply because mainly playing around Ensnaring Bridge. They could also have some type of random Leyline of Sanctity if they really hate on burn. So, and Mesmeric Orb sometimes shows up in these lists. Not often, but sometimes. And then, obviously, Whirling Vortex, keeping them from gaining life. Plus, we take damage from Rift Bolts, although, generally speaking, they don't really have a damage option unless they're playing a very budget version with Jace's Phantasm, or very old version, too. This hand, 4 lands, just can't keep that in this matchup. This hand, pretty decent, other than, the 1 land problem, but I do think we keep this one. Back Wear Tear, kind of gambling on them not having... Them showing us Soul Guide Lantern generally means that they don't have a lot in the matchup. It's not a card you generally leave in against burn. Opponent has a quick mill start. We kill one of their crabs. Swing in here. Does look like they are on a mulligan and kind of struggling to find relevant lands. They could have Archive Trap here, but we can't not play our spells, so fortunately, if they have Archive Trap, they're going to get us for a little bit here. Opponent does Fracturing Sanity, probably looking for Archive Trap potentially. They could have had it at the same time, just trying to find the most options that they could. They go to 10. They could be 1 black land away from casting whatchamacallit, but they're just dead here, so. Unless they have some type of balance spell to interact. And they're just dead. So, quick, easy steamroll a Mill. Mill is probably one of 2 matchups that you don't mind seeing as a burn player. That being this and Mono Green Tron are really the 2 matchups you want to see as a burn player. They're probably both upwards of 60%, possibly even 65%. Like I said, they're both matchups Burn likes to see. You can lose both matchups, but it's very rare. So, anyways, on to the 3rd match. All right, we're back for our 3rd match on the play, which is nice. This hand has a plethora of burn spells, 3 lands. So 12 points of burn seems like a solid hand, plus a redraw. So, go ahead and shock in. Lava Spike go. Opponent knows what's up. They play Bird. We pass. We draw Searing Blaze at the perfect time. They do nothing with their mana. We just Lava Spike and pass. Once again, potentially holding up Skullcrack. So what is going on here? Scavenging Ooze. Okay. Looked like Yogg for a minute, but we get to play around Skullcrack. Or Skullcrack them for getting life. That's the only creature in the yard, so opponent goes to 6. So a very curious decision. Ashiok Dreamrender, hoping to put creatures in the graveyard, it seems. They eat their own endurance. Go ahead and bolt them, put them to 4. Draw a Goblin God, which is not ideal. Play the fetch land, which is actually a mistake because if we draw a Searing Blaze, we won't be able to trigger landfall. But opponent continues to eat stuff, eats more stuff, goes to 6, hits us for 6. Scavenging Ooze, another Scavenging Ooze. And why did I concede here? Could play Swift Spear to block. This might have been a premature concession, although Swift Spear blocks. We take 2, go to 4. They go back to 7. We need to rip exactly Boros Charm. So premature concession here slightly, but we are mostly dead at this point. An interesting decker upon playing Sultai Pile overall. All right, looking at the sideboarding options, I didn't sideboard anything, so I guess we figured that we were fine. We're on to play this game. One lander. Man, I have been loose with some one landers this league. Goblin Guy, go. They draw basic swamp off that. Goes Ignoble Hierarch. We bolt their Hierarch, swing in. They have an Endurance coming up. They have Scavenging Ooze. We go ahead, crack, play Swift Spear, play Bolt, kill your Skews. This is when Burn feels like a tempo deck, when we're just killing your opponent's dorks, getting in for damage. They're just full-on Sultai, even with Sultai Charm, so they got a 9. Probably plan on casting Endurance here. We just spike them, we skewer them, swing in here. They have to block. Swift Spear, Goblin Guide's going to get in. Fulminator Mage, which could actually be pretty rough if we weren't already in an advantageous position. 1. I play a Skews. And we just Boros Charm them for the win. Alright, on to game 3 against Sultai Pile. Alright, back for game number 3. No lander, easy mulligan. One lander again, multiple 1-drop creatures. We're probably going to keep this one. And our opponent leads on Mana Dork. We lead on Inspire Advantage in the Goblin Guide. Get in for our 2 damage here. Hopefully they can't do too much with their Mana Dork this turn. Opponent shocks in, plays Kira, which makes Searing Blaze actually really bad. We go Swizzle Spear, go to combat. They have Sidisi on top. We just bolt their face. So the opponent takes 7 overall this turn. Now we're putting our opponent in a place where they have to block. Go ahead and play Lava Spike. Swing in, force our opponent to chump block. Opponent plays Endurance, which is whatever, it's a blocker. Yep. Which allows us to finish off the Endurance. After post-combat, once Kira's dead, they place a DC, they mill some stuff, and we just have lethal in hand since they're tapping out. Alright, I mean, they could have Force of Negation theoretically, but you just kind of got to go for it there. So, quick wrap. This league was weird. We go 3-0 in the matches that we showed you. The 2 matches we didn't show you was Death and Taxes and Old School Jund. We beat Death and Taxes, we lost to Jund. Really kind of hard to get a takeaway on this league, other than having an additional 1-drop is quite nice. You know, I had a lot of sketchy keeps, a lot of 1 land, 2 or 3 1-drop creatures. Generally, I'm trying to be more disciplined with those hands, but the upside seemed to have paid off quite a few times here for us. But, yeah. I mean, this was a fun league. It was different, obviously, the last couple times out. We've done modern challenges and modern prelims, so the league's a little bit more low-key. And for some reason, playing late at night with these leagues, we played some really weird matchups. We played against, Sultai Midrange, Elementals, but it had like Farseek in it, which I don't think I've ever seen out of an Elementals deck. We played against Jund, Mill, just some meta stuff and some off-the-wall stuff like this Sultai build, which admittedly still has some good cards. It's got, got Mana Dorks, it's got Sidisi Brood Tyrant, it's got Endurance. We really didn't see a whole lot else out of them. Scavenging Ooze, so basically like Sultai version of Jund without seeing a Tarmogoyf. So, but yeah, League was a lot of fun. A little bit different, change of pace. Hopefully you like this content. Once again, if you like Modern Red decks, this is the channel for you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you for next week's video.